Hi, today I'm going to show you how to install an Atkinson Electronics photovoltaic controller. Today I'm going to be installing the PVCM25D. The instructions would be the same if you're installing the 10, 15, 25, 25D, 40, or 40D. In the kit, there's four basic parts. There's the display module, there's the controller, there's the Cat 5 cable, and the most important part is the instructions. In order to install the controller, you're going to need some basic tools. A screwdriver, crimping tool. This crimping tool also has strippers on it as well, and a cutter. You're going to need strippers. You can use the same one or different ones. I like these better, so I'm going to use those. Depending on what you use to make your connections, you may need a heat gun and a screwdriver. You're also going to need some consumable materials. You'll need some ring terminals, depending on your battery type, and something to make your splices with. I have butt splices here. And since my butt splices are not insulated, some heat shrink tubing. You're also going to need wire, fuse holder, and fuses. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing you're going to need to do is choose a location to install your controller. Ideally, the controller would be installed very near the battery. It does have temperature compensation, so if your battery is cooler, it'll let it charge to a higher temperature. If your battery is getting hot, it will reduce the voltage so you do not overheat your battery. Depending on whether you're installing it into sheet metal or wood, in our case we're installing it in wood, so we're going to use wood screws. Okay, you'll notice that the three wires coming off of here, there's a yellow wire, red wire, and a black wire. The red wire and the yellow wire carry current, the charge current. The black wire does not carry charge current. We only use that to run the electronics inside the controller itself. So the next step would be to go ahead and strip your wires. Strip back far enough to make your connections. Okay, now we can go ahead and install our fuse holder. Make sure we slide on the heat shrink tubing first. You can also use pre-insulated butt splices or even wire nuts. Make sure that that's seated down. And at this point you'd also want to add a little bit of either dielectric grease like No-Lox or some silicone to make sure that this connection stays weatherproof. Even if it's going indoor, over time humidity can cause these connections to degrade. You won't get a full charge on your battery. Got a little long, so we'll trim it down. When you're making butt splice connections like this, you do want to make sure that you have the proper crimping tool. A pair of pliers would not crimp these properly. Okay, so this is where you'd silicone it up. I'm not going to do that since I'm just going to take this apart in a few minutes. Okay, and depending on your battery, if your battery has a ring terminal connector like this one does, go ahead and put your ring terminal on. Notice that the fuse is removed. Again, right now you'd want to go ahead and add a little dielectric grease to this connection as well to prevent any corrosion. Okay, now we can go ahead and hook up our negative. Same thing, you just extend your connection, butt splice, and a longer wire. Considering how close I am, I won't need to do that. We're going to have another wire go on here in a minute, so I'm not going to tighten that one all the way down yet. And then you have the connection from your solar panel. When you choose a solar panel, you will make sure you get a 12-volt nominal solar panel. Without anything attached to that, that should be reading about 20 volts in full sunlight. So, you have your wire coming from your solar panel. Do the exact same connection. Should put your heat shrink tube on first. Put that one a little long again. Turn it off. Okay, since we're indoors, I'm using a power supply that's underneath me here. Okay, and then coming from your solar panel, you're going to want to use a larger gauge wire, 12 gauge minimum. Same for these, since we're using a 25 amp controller. Make sure you do not undersize your wire. It's always better to go a little bigger than a little too small. The wire size, minimum wire size, will be listed in the instruction manual. Okay, so the negative from your solar panel is going to get hooked directly to the battery. It does not go to the controller. So now you grease up your connections, make sure they don't oxidize. Go ahead and tighten down the ring nut. And hook it up to your solar panel. Okay, the next step would be to go ahead and install your display. Just a regular Cat 5 cable like you'd use for a computer. If possible, you always want your wire coming from underneath. That way if you get any moisture on the wire, the moisture will drip off the bottom. If you have it coming from the top, moisture can follow the wire down into the box and short your unit. You can install this in a single gang box like this, or you can just cut a hole out of a plywood wall and use wood screws. You don't need to crank down on these screws. Just until they touch is good enough. Okay. While not absolutely necessary, it is a good idea to have a voltmeter. So let's go ahead and measure the voltage on our solar panel. So coming off of our solar panel, we have 21 volts. That's pretty good. The minimum voltage for charging is 16 volts. If you don't have at least 16 volts on your panel, there's not enough current there to charge the battery, and your relay will not engage and charge your battery. Okay, and on our battery, we have 12.95. So this battery's pretty well charged. So, the final step is to go ahead and install the fuse. Probably can't see it on the video, but there is a little green light there saying that our battery is indeed full. So we are not charging at this moment. Again, 100% charged. Battery voltage, 12.8, 12.95, it's really close. Solar charge amps, again, we're not charging, so it's 0. Solar amp hours, This just tells you how much total charging you've put into your battery. So if you're charging at 2 amps for 1 hour, you'll have 2 amp hours. If you're charging at 2 amps for 4 hours, you'll have 4 amp hours. It's just a total of how much charge you put into your battery. When you hit this select button, hold it for 1 second and then release. Okay, so let's go ahead and throw a load on the battery to bring our battery voltage down to engage the solar panels. Okay, immediately the red charge light comes on. And it may blink a few times. It just wants to ensure that there is proper voltage on the solar panel. And you can see our charge amps. No. Oh, there it goes again. We're at 10 amps now. So that's pretty good. And that will charge your battery up to 14.2 volts. And it comes on at approximately 12.7 volts. And that is all there is to installing your PVCM25D. Thank you.